to Freeman Friday Fun. This is Crafting with Crystal. I'm Crystal, of course. Thank you for coming back. With summer right around the corner, I know some of you are going to be wanting to do some thank you teacher gifts. So today we're just going to give you a couple of super simple, super cheap, super easy thank you gift crafts. They're not actually crafts because all you really have to do is assemble it, really. But that's what we're going to be doing today. So some of the things that you're going to need for our first two crafts are what I wanted to use a jug of wipies. Unfortunately, I couldn't find one in time, so I went ahead and got this spray bottle because, you know, everyone needs a spray bottle nowadays. So for the first craft, we're going to use this, and you're going to need a bunch of pencils. This is a pack of 16. You can buy them at any store, super cheap. And then you're going to need some ribbon, a pair of scissors to cut the ribbon, and a rubber band. Incidentally, you'll need some of the same things for our second craft, which I'll introduce now in case you want to go ahead and do these at the same time. But this time you'll use one of these little bins that you use for pencils and whatnot, and they're super cheap too because there's no substance to them, but they're metal. Again, ribbon, a rubber band, scissors, and for this one we're going to use crowns and Sharpies. So keep that in mind. So let's go ahead and get started on our first craft. Okay, so for this, what we're going to go ahead and do is, I thought I still had it on my wrist, go ahead and put our rubber band right around our spray bottle. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get a bunch of our pencils out. All of them hopefully will fit, otherwise I got too many. And we're just going to start placing them in and around the spray bottle. It's going to be difficult at first. You might even need 2 rubber bands to keep it flush and straight. But as you go along and the more pencils that you get on there, they'll straighten themselves out. So let me go ahead and get into the bulk of this and then get with you afterwards. I did see a craft where they had them kind of all leaning to the side and it created this nice little half effect like that all the way around. I'm not doing that. That seems like too much work to me, even though you're just letting them fall to the side. I imagine wrapping them would be unimaginably hard. Okay, so that was our first pack of 16. I am going to go ahead and let them fall however they're going to fall at the moment. We get another pack. So again, you might need a second rubber band to hold these up. I'm having a little bit of difficulties if I'm not gripping half of them. But it's fairly easy to just shove these in right next to each other. Okay, again, I'm gonna let them fall real quick. Straighten them up. And just going to try to add a few more in here to balance them out. Yeah, I think it actually has one too many. Let's take that one out. Okay, so we have our little thing here. I'm going to go ahead and very carefully wrap this so they stay upright like that. Very carefully wrap this so they stay upright. And you can use any kind of ribbon, or you can just use rubber bands if that's easier for you. This was kind of difficult for me, but I kind of knew what I was getting into, so I do recommend that you use more than one rubber band. It might take you a little longer, but it'll definitely be a little bit more organized and simple. So attached to this basically finished project, what we're going to do is we're going to attach a sign. This is something that you can either hand write or print or put on a vinyl. But my sign is going to say "Spread knowledge, not germs," which I thought was really cute. So I'm just double knotting this, and I'll make cuter bows later. Okay, so there's the first one. And I'm sure you can have the bows pre-made, you can have these little ribbons pre-cut. All of this is going to be subjective to you and what you would like to do. I just chose to do it this way. Okay, here we go. Now we have, and they might just keep falling, but that's okay. Go ahead and take my rubber band off of here. Move one of my rubs down, move one of them up. Here we go. So I tied mine a little loosely, but that's because I was having difficulties. Tie it a little tighter if you're able to, or again, use some elastic or rubber band to go ahead and keep them together. But that's the first project. Like, how simple is that? You get a couple of boxes of pencils, which teachers always need, and then either a can of white peas, something else that they can use, a spray bottle, which I used here today. And then, of course, you got to use your imagination for your catch, which, of course, again, my catch was "Spread knowledge, not germs." And I'll attach that here to the top and get rid of my little barcode up here. But that was it for the first one, and we're just going to recreate it again for the second one. Smaller. And the reason why I didn't glue the pencils to the spray bottle, and the reason why I'm not gluing the crowns to this little trash can, is because teachers need these things. Of course, it sucks that I've taken them out of the boxes when I could have just handed the boxes over in like a cute little gift basket. But I wanted it to be cute. Of course, right? You want everything to be cute, especially if you're giving it to a teacher that you really appreciate. You want to make a presentation. So that's what we're doing. We're making presentations. So again, this one might work a little better. Put your little thing around here. This one is going to be probably the same amount of difficulty, just because I didn't pick a little canister that was straight up and down. It does have a small curve outwards from the top, so the crowns are probably going to be sticking out, but that's okay. So I know one box of crowns is not going to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and open up a second box. And we're just going to start putting them in there. I'm just going to add these colors where it seems like they fit. Orange, black. And I'm going to add my brown right here in between my... Okay, there's actually a couple more than I need in here, but I'm going to go ahead and go with it. Well, let me take out one or two. so we got all our colors here. Again, it's not fitting exact because it does have a small turn to it, but that's okay because again, they're at least getting the product that they need, even if it doesn't look the best. So there we go. I'm going to go ahead and wrap my ribbon around it. And you can use any type of ribbon. I'm just using this colorful type because I had some left over. With this one, I recommend wrapping the ribbon around the bottom part and then kind of just scooting it up. That way it's nice and tight. All right, there we go. And so with this one, I'm going to go ahead and include the extra crowns on the top because of course we have to have our catch, right? Something that's going to catch their eye. We have our Sharpies here. Add our Sharpies into here. And then of course we're going to add our little tag. Of course, again, I haven't made it because I plan to print mine now / use my Cricut machine to add a small little tag. But this one you can write, you can again print, you can use your own Cricut machine if you have one. But those were our first two projects. We're gonna go ahead and mention our next two before we get into them, just so you can have an idea of what we're about to do. So next one, you're going to need a star of any kind. It can be a wooden star. I have a galvanized star here. You can print one, you can draw one, whatever it is that you choose to do. I will come back with a Cricut cutout of the thing that I want. But since this is your own project, you can do whatever you like. But mine is going to say, if we weren't pushed and pulled, then we would all end up perfect little circles instead of the stars that we are. So that will be this project, and I'll show you the finished project because again, all I have to do really is assemble it. I have the product, just need to put it together. And then our last one, of course, which I will also just show you the final product, is a pair of scissors. Any pair of scissors, hopefully a good pair of scissors, something that will help them whenever they need it, or a bunch of scissors because again, teachers always need scissors. And then I will come back and show you the finished product. I'm going to add a little tag here, and it's going to say you're a cut above the rest. Really quickly, I wanted to show you that I went ahead and reinforced my, oh, that's not even on. Reinforced my little tower here. I found that it's easier when you wrap it around and then tie your knot because it keeps it all together. It is going to shift while you're doing that, but it at least keeps it all together so that you can add another one. So you can see this is a lot more sturdy now. Pencils aren't flying everywhere. I can hold it with one hand. But I did reinforce it that way twice. So for this one, I am going to reinforce it. I went ahead and took off the little band that was on there so I could reinforce it in the same way that I reinforced the pencil one. But I just wanted to show you all that I went ahead and added some confetti on the inside so that it didn't look so lonesome whenever I added my little crowns and my Sharpies here. Can't really see all that well, but nice colorful confettis in there and to dress it up a bit, of course. All right, so let's go ahead and show you the finished product. Here is the crown case, and right here I have the little note to teach is to color a life forever. So that's that one. It has the nice little confetti inside with my extra crowns and the Sharpies. Here is the finished sanitizer one. It says spread knowledge, not germs, which I thought was cute. And I just used a little bit of twine to tie it to one of the strings there. The pair of scissors that now has your cut above the rest on it, which will go in my little crown thing here. And then here is that galvanized thing. It says, if no one ever pushed and pulled us, we'd all be perfect little circles instead of stars. And I'm going to go ahead and add in Sharpie a little thank you note down here, which is why I left all this space. But that one will be personal to me. Okay, so for the next two that we're going to do, the last two that we're going to do, we will be doing these little things. So this one says, thank you for helping me grow, and it's a little clay pot with little rulers around it. And then this one is a little apple wine glass with a ruler on the side, and then the teacher's name here on the bottom. A side note, if you want to let them wash this, which of course you probably do if they're going to be using it for anything other than decoration, please put a sealant on it, even resin, that would be nice. Make sure you use a dishwasher safe, either Mod Podge, sealant, and or resin. So yes, let me let you know what you need for these crafts. For the first craft, you're going to need, of course, a clay pot. You're going to need a big brush here, and you'll need several smaller detailed ones depending on how you write. I have very shaky hands, especially when I'm doing detailed things, so I use a very, very thin end to try to get those little details in there. They're not exact because, again, my hands are shaky. If yours are, don't worry about it, still will look good. And then of course you will need your black paint and your yellow paint and your white paint. I do recommend using acrylic for this. This is what I had to use at the moment. I have acrylic paint and a tempera paint, which, I mean, it worked out fine for this one. But I definitely recommend you use acrylic paint or all the same paint, especially if you're going to seal it and use it. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so you're not going to really be able to see what I'm doing here. And of course you want to go ahead and lay something down to not get paint on your table with. And then we're going to use our big brush, and we're just going to pour our paint directly onto the pot. So we're just going to do this and start spreading it out. This is probably one of the easiest crafts I've done, mainly because you just have to get the products and paint it, which, what could be easier? If you've ever worked with clay pots before, you know that paint will very quickly dry on here. So you don't have to really worry about a drying time, because it will dry rather quickly. You can see it's already starting to dry up there. And I only needed one coat for the pot. The black seems to work really well with the clay. Everything gets covered. And then it's okay to, like, there's a little lip under the pot. Just go ahead and fill that in by running your brush along the side. If it goes over a little, it's fine. The yellow of the ruler part will go ahead and cover it. All right, there we go. Almost fully dry now. And then we will use one of our smaller brushes and go ahead and add the details after that. Again, we're just going to write, thank you for helping me grow. I have 2 kids, so I need 2 of these, which is why I'm just going to repeat the message. I don't want anyone to feel left out. I forgot to mention that you will also need paper towels and a cup of water or a bottle of water, anything that you can dip your brush into, so that if you wanted to use this bigger one again to go around this edge here, you don't have to get up and go to the bathroom and wash it off. Again, I'm going to be using a smaller one. It might take a little bit longer, but at the very least I won't have to wash my big black brush, because I'll be using it again for the next craft. So for this one, I am just going to pour my yellow paint directly onto my paper towel here. Get some on my brush and then just start spreading it out. This is a tempera paint, so it's going to be very thin. Again, that's why I recommend you use the acrylic paint, because it will be very opaque when you first put it on, no matter how little or much you put on. This one might need a couple of coats. I believe I did 2 coats on my other one, but that's completely up to you. And the reason why I ask for several smaller brushes is because, again, if you don't have your water cup, you don't want to be getting up and down. You're just going to go straight from using this to using one of the smaller ones to add the finer details. So the black around my edges has yet to dry on the underneath part, so it's kind of getting mixed in here with my yellow, which is okay because it can be covered up, but that's why you want to wait for it to dry. I'll show you that thing. See how it's kind of mixing in. You can see this under part is still pretty shiny where the black is, and that's where I kind of dug my yellow brush in there accidentally and moved it over. But that's okay. Happy little mistakes, right? And again, it is drying fairly quickly, so I'm going ahead and adding my second coat here. This doesn't require a lot of paint, so just keep that in mind whenever you're pouring the colors out into your trays, if you're using trays. Okay, so now we have our main little pot here. I'm gonna go ahead and set that aside, and I have more brushes here. So while the yellow is drying, I'm going ahead and going to use the white paint to add my message here. And if you have standing paint that you haven't used in a while, make sure that you shake it up thoroughly before you use it. Oh, I'm gonna paint everywhere. And again, we're just writing thank you and thank you for helping me grow. Again, my hands shake, so it's not going to be the best. Also, this little paintbrush has a flyaway, which is causing some extra marks. So if you want to make sure that your brushes are clipped and nice and neat before you start this, that would probably help. And I'm just writing this all willy-nilly on here. You may want to plan this out a little bit better on how you're going to space it, where you're going to place it, all those good things. With this, if you want to add, gardening supplies, something that goes with pottery, or clay pots, anything that is relevant to growing something, seeds, anything like that that you think the teacher might like, you can also add that in here. I'm not going to do that because I know neither of the teachers garden, but I did make this so they could have something to place their pens in, pencils. I know the kids get up and use a lot of extra crafts and things a lot, and it'd be helpful for them to just grab it out of a little container. So there we go. Thank you for helping me grow. That's for that. Now that the yellow is dry, I'm going to go ahead and use some of the black that I still have here on my stuff and just start adding my lines. And I kind of use a knuckle space between each long line. And you're going to go about halfway down or more if you like. Again, my hands are shaky, so my lines will not be straight, but we're adding the ruler onto here. Okay, now that we've got our long lines here, about halfway down, we're going to put a midline between all of these lines about halfway down from where that is. From where our long lines are, rather. It's about half of the long line. Okay, and just do that all the way around. So here's the difficult part for me. My hands get a little bit shaky, so it's harder for me to do the smaller lines in between all of these lines to make like the millimeters. So I'm going to use the back of my brush actually, and I'm going to go ahead and dip it in the black and just kind of make lines like this. And they're not the best, but I can go over them later, or now rather, and fill them in. And it's not going to be, like millimeters, obviously. No, I put paint on it. I'll go back to using my brush since I've messed this up here. Which is okay. Again, I can go over it in yellow. But you see where I accidentally touched it. And my hands aren't so shaky today, so I am able to get some of those lines in there. You want 5, but I can only get about 2 to 3 in there with how shaky my hands are. But it's completely up to you whether you want it to be realistic or not. Okay, I have it all the way around now. And again, I'm just going to cover that part with some more yellow paint once it dries. But there you go. So that was our second part of our crafts. Thank you for helping me grow with the little ruler around the side. And that was pretty easy. So the next thing that you'll need for your next craft and our final craft is a wine glass. Then of course you're going to need your black paint. You're going to need your white paint. You're going to need your white paint. You're going to need yellow paint for the ruler. Again, you'll need your green paint for the leaves, and of course your red paint for the apple. Again, these are tempera paints. They're not going to look the best whenever I put them on. Use acrylic paint and or Sharpies. You can also bake the Sharpie on here and it will look 10 times better than what I'm about to do, but it does take a longer time to do. Okay, so again, for the last craft that we have here, we're going to be making this nifty little wine glass that has apple, it has a little ruler on the side, and it has the name of the teacher on the bottom here. So it's self-explanatory. You're going to get a wine glass, any type that you'd like, and then you're going to paint it. Black, yellow, red. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Obviously, you don't need instruction on how to do that. So I'm just going to do that. But of course, you're going to want your mat or thing to work on. You're going to want your wine glass. And you're going to want to alcohol wipe it down. So that it's a nice smooth surface for you to work on. Again, please use acrylic paint. Oh my gosh, my hair's sticking up. Use acrylic paint on these, and then you're going to want a Mod Podge or a sealant to put over the cup, because as this is, you can see it's kind of matte and it will wash off if you're using the same tempera and regular acrylic paints that I'm using. So please use one professional acrylic paint and or Sharpies, the paint Sharpies that you can find anywhere. And then you're going to want a sealant to seal it up so that it is dishwasher safe. I have a dishwasher safe resin at home, so that's what I'll be using, but you won't see that here. I'm just going to show you what we're going to be doing to paint this to make it look the way it looks. So of course you're going to need your paints: green, red, white for the lettering, yellow for the ruler, black for the bottom. And then if you're trying to work quickly, I recommend a small fan because these do dry rather kind of slow. But if you have a fan, it goes a little bit quicker. And then your variety of brushes here. I am adding this to my list only because I have a lot of confetti from earlier this year and we like to repurpose things, so that's what we're going to do. So inside of my little cup here, I'm going to put some of this in here and then put maybe like a little gift card or something else to go inside. So let's go ahead and get started with that and show you how quickly and easily this can be done. So I suggest you start with your darker colors. Actually, I suggest you start with your lighter colors, forgive me. What you're going to do is do your yellow so that you have your nice base stopping exactly where you want it to go. And then the black will go over it, as will the red. So we're going to start with our yellow here. If you have old paints, if you have new paints, if you just picked up paint, make sure that you shake it thoroughly. You won't need to if you have professional acrylic paint, which again, I recommend you use. And then you're gonna pour a little on your working surface here. I'm gonna use my medium brush here and just start painting it on. And again, this is tempera paint that I'm using, so it's going to be very translucent to begin with, and I will need to put several coats on here, which is why I have the fan. Okay, while that is drying up, I'm gonna go ahead and pour out my other paints that I'm going to need and kind of go around the bases so that I have a nice starting surface on what I'm going to do. I'm actually going to paint it right in here. I don't need that much, but that's okay, we'll work with it. There's not much in here. It's not good. Okay, so I'm going to use this little brush to paint my bottom half here with the black. And again, it's going to be transparent if you're using the tempera paint. Might even be transparent if you use the regular acrylic paint, and you might have to go over it a couple times. I think it just depends on the glassware that you use. And get as close to the yellow spots as you can without going over it. Because once the yellow dries, we're going to go over it one more time, and then we can go over with the black. And as I'm working in the direction of my fan here. I have it right here pointed at my cup. That way, as I'm working, at least one side is getting, turn that up a little, getting dried. So I'm going to use my bigger foam brush here. The reason that I'm doing that is because the tempera paint that I'm currently using is very, very thin and there's not a lot of it. So what I am going to end up doing is just tapping it all the way around instead of actually gliding it on there. I'm going to glide it on first and then I'm going to tap it because I want to figure out where I'm going to have everything at. So I'm just going to outline where I want my apple to start. I'm going to start with a little heart there and go around. And then we're going to, on the other side, hopefully evenly, make another heart. So we have the front and back of a heart. And again, getting as close to that yellow as possible. The foam brush is probably not the best for details, but I'm trying to glob the paint on there, so I am not too worried about it. Oh, I touched it. It's okay. Okay, so I'm gonna let that sit for a moment. Now that I have all my base colors on there. At this point, if I was using the paint Sharpie markers, I would go ahead and outline every area that I wanted it to be in and then go ahead and color it in. But since I am just using the tempera paint, I do have to wait to outline, especially when using this green. The green will be the very last thing that I use. So I will come back when I start the second coat. Alright, so the yellow is just about dried here. You can see where I still have some wet spots here and here, but it is drying up. So again, as I'm working, I'm keeping it in front of my fan because I have a very short time period that I can do this in. I'm sure that you will have a lot more time to do this, so don't worry about working too fast or too slow. And then you'll notice if you're using tempera paint, just because it's the cheapest thing that you could get or find, that when you add more tempera paint on top of tempera paint, it kind of glides off a little, even if it is fully dry. So again, you may need several coats, but again, that's okay. You take as many coats as you need. And since the black is almost dry, I'm going to go ahead and start with the second coat of that. Black's actually going on really well this time. And don't worry about making it perfect. Okay, so we're back to the drying part. I've added my second coat of the yellow. I've added my second coat of the black. The second coat of my red is where I'm going to start tapping it in there. And let me show you how I'm going to do that. Get your brush, and then you're just going to tap it down. If you see, that creates a nice opaque layer instead of the translucent layer that we have here. I'm going to do that all over following my guidelines. Adding paint when necessary. Okay, so you can see it's pretty opaque now. You can't really see through it. There's still some spots that will need a third layer, which I will be doing shortly. But you can see that it's creating these little lines, which again, it doesn't have to be perfect as long as it's fully covered. Usually, in my experience, when you're working with acrylic paint and with glass, if you add a third, even fourth layer, it might still look textured, but that texture will somewhat go away if you add a layer of Mod Podge, because that will fill in those areas, or a layer of resin, and resin will again fill in those areas. It won't be as bumpy, especially if you have a spinning wheel that you can set it on. So leaving this to dry one more time, we'll add a third and final layer. We'll add our leaves to the top of the apple, which will need a couple layers itself. And then we will add the name to the bottom as well as the black lines for the ruler. 2 seconds. Okay, so we are about to add our third and final layer. Again, I'm showing this to you as a representation, not an actual finished product, because I have a limited time in which to do these things, but you of course do not. So take your time to perfect these things. Don't be scared to make mistakes, as I always say on this channel. Have fun, make those mistakes, learn from those mistakes, and just keep moving forward. So third and final layer, the yellow is once again dry. I'm gonna go ahead and put big globs on here, so hopefully it doesn't take any more off than it already has. Might take a little bit longer to dry, but I would prefer that as opposed to a translucent stem. There we go. Okay. That layer is done, finished with it all the way. I'm gonna go ahead and add my third and final layer to the bottom, and I'm going to move it up a little so that it is actually touching the yellow. Maybe even partially covering the yellow this time, even though the yellow is not fully dry. There we go. Fully covered. And then of course our red, which we're pretty dry up here, but we're gonna go ahead and add some of that tapping again. Personally, I think mementos that are handmade mean a lot more to people. They may not mean a lot more to teachers in particular, because there are certain things that they need, certain things that they don't need. I think I've heard of a few teachers that were upset by some of the gifts that they were given by the children because it was something that they couldn't use. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to say that this is handmade and from the heart, and hopefully they will love it just as much as they love anything else that the children make. Okay, and this time I'm going to make the red actually meet the yellow. Now I'm going to shake up my green. Add a little bit of green. I don't need a lot, just a small dot. I'm going to use one of my smaller brushes and figure out where I had my apple hearts and just add my leaves on top. And these can be just little stripes. They don't have to be perfect. Little long oval triangles, leaf-like looking things. Again, I am working with tempera paint. It's not the best. It's translucent. Okay, and I'm gonna let those dry. See if my yellow layer is dry yet. Okay, so our yellow is completely dry now, so we're gonna go ahead and add those lines. So what I want you to do is go ahead and grab a little bit of black paint on one of your smaller brushes and just paint a line down the side of whichever side you think is the better apple. I'm gonna go with this side. So that's my front side. So right here on the side is where I'm going to paint my thick black line. I'm just gonna go down the side. It doesn't matter if it smudges or it messes up. Just make sure that it is opaque all the way through and there's no see-through areas. Okay, just an opaque black line. And then again, I'm gonna do about half a knuckle's length between each inch. And that's a quote with one finger. And I'm just gonna make it basically all the way, halfway around. So throughout the whole front side, if you could see that. Okay, so about the same length all the way around. When you look at it from the front side, you shouldn't be able to see the end of the line. Okay. Now, in the middle of those lines, we're just going to create a line halfway through that. Okay, starting to look like a ruler. And here you're going to very sparsely grab some black paint on the end of your brush, and you're just going to flick it across. I don't know if I could show you while I'm doing it. Like that. And of course, this is not an actual inch, so these are not actual measurements. They're not going to be accurate, of course, so don't worry about making them too nice. It's just supposed to vaguely look like a ruler. If I had a better, smaller brush and I had more time, I would definitely take my time with this. So please, if you have more time and you want the detail on there, make the detail. Go for it, please. I love seeing all of your creations that you've made after these videos, and I love seeing you post them, and I love seeing your interpretation of what we've done here. The black isn't quite finished, but I think you get the idea on just writing the name down there in white. So one more time, we're gonna go over our green, and this cup wine glass will be done. Minus the name, which I will add later. It's not something that you have to do, and it's not something that I have to show you at the moment because you should know how to add a name. Obviously you're not going to add the same name I am, so it would not benefit me to show, or benefit you for me to show you a particular name on here when you're not going to be copying that name, if that makes any sense. So let's pretend that is dry. Teachers might not like this. I feel like maybe it's a little bit of a mess, but I think it's cute, so we're gonna do it anyway. Just adding some of my confetti here. A lot of it's dropping everywhere. Alright, confetti in my glass. And at this point, if I had any extra crowns from my previous project, pencils, brushes, glue sticks, anything, I would place them in there after I Mod Podged / sealed this project. and then keep it over to the teacher. That's as simple as it is. So I hope you enjoyed our crafts today. Over the course of the several days that you've seen me, I know I've changed a lot, clothes and hair-wise. But hopefully you got good ideas to give to the teachers. Hopefully you're inspired to go give the teachers more, because they do always need supplies, and I can't stress that enough. As a person who works in the library, we hear that a lot. As a person who used to work in retail, I would hear that a lot. Teachers always need those supplies. I'm sure they do care how they're packaged, and hopefully they're not just all over the place, but I know that they appreciate gifts and creativity as well. So don't let any of that deter you. Don't let any of that hinder you from whatever it is that you want to do to show your appreciation for your kids' teachers. So I will finish off these projects on my own. I will resin my wine glasses. I will add my little notes to all of my other trinkets and gifts that I have made today. Hopefully you got some good ideas. Hopefully you'll come back, and hopefully you enjoyed the video today. Thank you again for joining us on Freeman Friday Fun. This was Crafting with Crystal, and I hope that you join us the next Freeman Friday. People are staring at me. I am gonna try to bring this rubber band upwards without making them all fall. I already did. And then with this one, needed to reinforce it. Darn it. Wolf's broth. The green will be the very, very. I don't know how much of that I lost. Okay. I touched it. Oh well. Straight? Okay, we're straight. I did get a haircut, guys. Doesn't it look so nice? Anyway. Oh, it's not gonna turn out good. Got paint everywhere. Actually needed that. I'm gonna use one of my smaller. Why do you keep turning? Okay, try. Okay, so in just, oh my god. Lines to everything, we'll add the, why do you keep turning? Oh my god. Please don't.